So hello, I'm Simon,
I'm Victoria.
and we are all that we are, and we're down here in just outside Hobart, about 25 minutes out of Hobart, and I'm looking over Pipe Clay Lagoon here, which is a beautiful view, and we run a residency space here for artists to come. It's a creative kind of space.
And we're on the land originally of the Moomaroomina people, and we would like to pay our respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community here in Lutruwita, Tasmania, and acknowledge the land has never been ceded and pay our respects to the ancestors and the leaders, current and emerging, who we work with.
So we're going to do a video with you today. A little, you've got a slot in your weekend for an activity which we're leading here. So we're going to do a little intro about what this is really about, and then we're going to do a how-to of actually how you're going to make the thing that you're going to make today. Then we're going to leave you so you can switch the video off and use your own time
as long as you like on this activity
to do what you want to do, and then but come back to us before the end, because we've got a final little activity for you to do, for you to be able to share what you've made. So the focus of this session is really around creative spaces, and we've spent our career in various different ways creating spaces for people to be creative in. And that could be a building, a public space, a sitting room, a dining room table, or, as you'll see in a minute, a piece of paper. I spent many years at Art Play in Melbourne, creating spaces where families could come and be creative together. You've worked in a variety of different forms too, in books?
Yes, well today we're actually focusing on a very small and very simple and very accessible creative space, which I have worked with for well over 20 years now. And you'll probably be familiar with, I'm holding up an example here, it's a way of folding a single sheet of paper so that it makes a little 8-page book or zine. You may well know this as a zine fold, but I have tended to refer to it as a book. So I'm going to just say a little bit of something about why I like this creative space, and then we will show you how to fold the paper and talk about how you might approach the task, and then leave you to get on with it. So what I like about this is that essentially it's a way of transforming a single sheet of paper, which can be any size. I tend to use A3. Here's an A4 sheet. An A3, when it folds up, gives you an A6 size page. But what I like about it is you can fold your paper, you can work and fill each page, and then when you have completed each creative space, in this case a page, you can unfold it and it becomes a single sheet on one side that is filled with content that you can then publish. And that's been my interest over many years, is the possibility of this simple form being published, that is printed, copied, and then shared with others, and the power of that.
And it is a bit of a disarmingly simple form, because although it's just a piece of paper, with everything we talk about, if you make those spaces, if you create the right environment for that kind of creativity to happen, whether it be with your team as a leader, or whether it be in the community spaces or the production rehearsal spaces that you work, then people feel very freed up to do whatever they want. They don't feel kind of constrained within boundaries.
I like it because it offers a very boundaried creative space, a very small, intimate space, and yet within the confines of that you can offer the possibility of agency, of responding to place, to culture, to community, to time, to those feelings in the moment, and it's completely flexible and works with any age group for a whole range of purposes. And importantly, as we'll talk about a little bit later, that you can use some very different materials in different ways. But before we talk about that, maybe we will show you how to fold the piece of paper.
So we do a show and tell on how to fold, and then we'll talk about what materials they could go around and gather to actually create the book which you're going to need. Great.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a piece of A3 paper, and I'm going to fold it like this, in half on the long edge first, carefully scoring down the line, because this, if you think about origami, the quality of the folding makes a difference. In order to get good folds, I'm going to unfold it flat and then fold it the other way, and that allows me to get a good, sharp, accurate fold. Then at this point, if we think about origami folding, we're going to fold back the wings to the center point, and flip it over and do the same on the other side. And the idea of this is that we want an open or zigzag fold, which has been referred to for many years by my colleagues and myself as the hot dog book. And at this point I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut down through, just to make sure you can see, through the folded ridge, just as far as the fold line. It's important to get that as accurate as possible. And at this stage you can pick it up and open up that center split. Make, say, 4-point star diamond, and we can fold it around and squash it flat. And at this point it becomes a book, or a container of a creative space in 8 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or you could equally see it as a front cover, a beginning spread, a middle spread, and an end spread, which makes it a very simple beginning, middle and end format, followed by a back cover. These spaces invite thinking about what you want to place on the front, back, and what content you wish to produce.
So we've got the book form, we've got the container. What are we going to put in the container?
Well, what I like about this is its open-endedness. So the answer to that is exactly what you want to put in your book.
Great.
Depending on how you are feeling in this moment. And I will just show a couple of examples by a group of adults earlier this year at a market in Hobart at the Longhouse. And Mijawi made a book about her night out. It's very visual, and she used a little bit of collage, for which she picked and found some natural materials from the outside garden and a black line marker for drawing. And we also happen to have a little bit of ochre, so she's used a bit of ochre as a wash, which is a very effective mixture. It's a very visual book and it's very simple.
I'm going to jump in and say I think one of the important things about the creative spaces is you don't have to get it perfect. That's right, isn't it? Really?
Absolutely.
It's about a playful space. If you make any creative space somewhere where people feel they have to get it right, then that's going to be restrictive straight away.
It won't be creative.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I particularly like working with natural materials. I'm going to make a big pitch for that because of the properties of the if you publish your book, that you can glue and stick slightly 3D quality or thicker natural materials, and then when you photocopy your book at the end, it preserves the freshness of those natural materials in your book. This book is a combination of little bits of paper collage and flower petals, which is very effective, as is this one that is a documentation of a young woman's recent 7-day walk or 6-day walk on the overland track in Tasmania.
Great. So really, it can be about anything we want. We can use any materials. What have you got here? That you like using collage, obviously. So you've got a few things that most people would have around their house in somewhere. Or
yes, I've got a collection here of little collage scraps, some of which go back a long way. I can remember, for instance, this piece of fabric, buying it from a shop for something, and this is the last little scrap of it left about 15 years later. But obviously it's a great way of recycling. I love collage because it's a perfect opportunity to talk about messages around recycling, reuse, reduce, and issues around sustainability. So you can build your own little collection. There's a piece of she oak coming out here, which again, pitch for using natural materials is a particularly lovely thing to do.
Well, I've got something very different because I've got, as a visual artist, I've got stuff that I've made in the past. So just some pieces of watercolour shapes and some photographs that are printed out and some other little images which I'm going to play with from my bank of things. So we've also got pens.
Yes.
Or a pen.
My preference is to use collage or other materials for the colour, and to use a black pen for line drawing. But really, there are no rules. It's absolutely up to you.
And a glue stick?
Glue stick is useful if you're going to do collage, but equally you can, you may have a favourite set of colouring pens or paint, watercolour, pastels. Chalky or messy, but or oil-based pastels, anything that you like to use.
And when people have done this, when you've done it in the past, do people plan it out carefully beforehand, or do we just go for it? We just go for it, don't we? Isn't it?
I think we're just going to go for it, but I would just like to say about that in a world, and I'm thinking here about working with children because that's where I've used this most. Children these days are very directed in their lives. Their time in school, for instance, is really very often mapped out. There are strong themes, there are goals, there are targets to be met. So what I love about this activity is to take away those constraints and say, well, okay, maybe our theme is we're doing a theme around our dreams. But actually, you may have another idea. This is your book, you're in control. Because really, for me, it's about offering a creative space that a child has agency over and they can direct for themselves. I am going to, shall I tell you what I had in mind to do?
I've got no
today?
idea yet, so yeah, I'd like to
Well,
hear yours.
I did have something in mind, and it might rely on when we stop the camera and I walk away from here. Because in these tricky times that we find ourselves in, I'm thinking about my garden and the feelings I have of being overwhelmed. So I thought today I might go outside into my garden and make friends with the weeds, of which there are too many. and just see whether I could use this time to really tune in and look carefully at the shapes and beauty of some of those weeds. I don't know what I'll make out of it, but that's what I'm going to try and do. So I'm tuning into how I'm feeling at this moment.
I think I'm going to tune into the sort of bank of stuff that I've got from the past. I'm just going to get a few things out and see what I make.
Okay, two very different
So
approaches.
you can do exactly what you want. We're going to leave you for a while. If you want to check back how to refold, you can obviously go back in this video and see how we did it again if you get stuck. And we'll come back and we're going to talk about sharing the books at the end. We've got a couple of ways you can share this with the other people in the group. But basically, have fun and go and explore. We might go for a little walk in a minute and just go out and have a look at what you collect.
We'll probably shoot a little bit of various stages of our making process, so you can skip past that if you want, or you can check in and have a little bit of
See how we're going.
virtual conversation with us and see how we're going.
Exactly. Great.
Okay.
Good luck.
Good luck. See you soon. Well, here is a rather messy pot that's been ignored all through the winter. Not necessarily weeds, but some straggly little bits and pieces that I'm going to thin out. Again, I'm pulling out the grass. So I've got a basket of not very prepossessing looking bits of dead material, but it's amazing how when you start to lay it out and look at it, you start to notice the shapes, you start to make patterns, and I don't know what book I'm going to make, but I can see that there's something interesting here. And quite apart from what I make with it, it's about how it makes me feel. So I'm immediately finding that I'm tuning in, I'm noticing. It's a very calming thing to do. And yeah, I can just start to think about how materials might come together on a page.
So I've taken some pieces of watercolour from my portfolio of things, and I'm just starting to sort of cut those out and create things. I think I'm seeing my book really as a bit of an inquiry on the way. I have no idea what it's going to look like, and it might just create something new and interesting that I hadn't foreseen was going to happen beforehand. So I'm just sticking on these, and I'm not thinking about any words at the moment, but they may come later. I'm literally doing a visual response to these pieces and seeing how they assemble. So I decided to print some words out on the computer, just put them in Word and then printed them out. Different sizes, so I'm putting some words in my book and generally making it up as I go along. But now I've got the words and they're actually guiding me a little bit on what I'm doing and how I'm putting them together. So I've pretty well finished mine, as far as I kind of want to take it right now. So I've done a mixture of collaging and drawing straight on my book. And we've got two ways we thought you could share the book with your colleagues if you want to. Firstly is simply to get your phone out and read onto a video. Just video yourself reading the book, as I'm going to do with you in just a second. And the other way Victoria's going to show you, she's just still finishing hers, where you can actually publish the book in effect. So my book is called Balance, and it's one line of text all the way through. So balance, the tension of the push and pull of two gathering elements. Most of my work is about collage and how you pull things together, so it seems to be a book for me about my practice. I've put my name, Simon, August 2021 on the back to date it, and yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Happy with that one to share with you, and I will put that on a video and upload that to Slack. I think is probably the best place to upload your video to, on that Slack channel. Then everybody can have a look at what everybody has done. How are you doing, Vic?
Nearly there. So for my book I used some natural materials. Now there are some issues with using natural materials. They're very fragile. They're quite hard to stick and to stay, and I found some bits did not stick easily, such as the little brown dried up leaves, and so I decided to use a needle and thread and stitch them on, which means you've got this contrast really of something very ephemeral like a leaf and something more permanent like stitching. And that gives me a few issues, so I decided to photocopy.
So you've unfolded yours, like back to where it was before we folded it up. Yep.
So
Gotcha.
folded up, it is actually really rather fragile and in danger of all the bits falling off. So I decided to photocopy it, and the photocopy is now a flat sheet again and needs to be folded up. So I will just, and I photocopied it rather onto thicker paper, yes. And so anyway, I have folded up this copy and I need to find the front. Squash it down. I've lost a few edges. I've got quite a lot of smudging happening, but I don't mind that. And now I can read my book to you. Detritus. Surplus to requirements. Becomes a shape of beauty. Transforming point of view. Embracing the prickles, delicate and fragile. Stitched with love. Did I accidentally make a book about COVID-19? I only said that because I thought my image on the front looked a little bit like a virus.
Nice one. Lovely. So we've got two ways of people to share. One is doing video of their book reading out loud, and or then they can open it up flat, and if they have access today or another day to a photocopier to do a copy.
If you want to take a photograph of your book,
Oh yeah.
a good tip is to unfold it and then fold back on your fold lines. Fold it back in reverse. And the reason for that is because then it will lay flat Then take a photo, making sure you have a border all the way around so that you can then crop it.
Yeah, I've got it.
And then it can be simply shared as a JPEG or PDF, and then anybody else in the group
Fantastic.
can have a copy of your book, and
Great.
once they've printed it out they too can fold and cut and have their own copy
Great.
of their book.
I think we've
We've
shown
done.
them how to do it. So we hope you've enjoyed doing that, and yeah, we look forward to seeing some of the results.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be a little bit more exciting than mine.
We'll see how they are. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.